Good morning, everyone. In the last class, we are discussing the collection framework concepts here, the implementation classes we are discussing here. So, up to what are the implementation classes we discussed, and the priority queue, the implementation of the queue interface. So, we discussed here. Right. Now, the remaining class we are going to discuss, which is implementing from the DQ interface here. So, as we discussed in the last class, here, so what is the purpose of this particular the DQ interface here? So basically, this particular DQ interface added in Java 1.6, and if you want to get it, so last in first out, getting the point. So if you want to get it, last in first out, what you can do, you can go for the particular interface called DQ interface here, right? And what about this particular queue interface? The queue interface is going to provide the first in first out here. So first in first out manner, the queue interface is going to provide, and same way the DQ interface is going to provide last in first out. Okay, we go for the implementation classes here. We go for the implementation class. What is the implementation class here? Something called array. Array is the implementation of this particular DQ interface. Okay, let me create a class here. So we'll try to focus on what are the methods are available in the particular DQ interface. And so sorry, class we create something called array DQ. Right. So array DQ test. So directly we cannot take the same here array DQ here. So to understand now, now we are in the array DQ test. So we'll try to check with the implementation class here. So we'll try to check with the implementation class called array DQ. So system is a little bit slow. So see, this is the implementation class called this particular array DQ, and we can see new array DQ. So what I am doing here, I am trying to create a constructor. Observe here, how many constructors we are having here? So we are having 3 constructors here. So first one is the default constructor. Second one, which is expecting as a parameter as a collection of objects here. So another one, which is expecting as a into num element. So it's nothing but the size of this particular DQ here. Getting the point. So these are the 3 constructors we are having inside this particular DQ constructor, and we'll try to check with what exactly the each constructor so it's working internally. Okay. Now I'm going to click on this particular directory, so you can observe here. Internally, what they are doing here? Again, they are creating an object with some specified size. So what is the size here? What is the size here? The size we are having 16 plus 1. So it's around 17. By default, how many elements we can insert here? By default, how many elements we can insert? We can insert around 17 elements here. So this is the object array. This is the object array. But now, so using this particular object array, what we are going to do? So based on our element type, we are going to insert the particular object information here, right? So we need to identify. So this is the reference of this particular object array. So where we are using this particular array, the element reference here. So to understand the each method, when we are calling the each method here. Okay. So observe here, we identified the default constructor, and we can observe, so which is expecting, so num element. Num element is nothing but the size of this particular element here. Observe here what we are doing here. If this particular num less than 1, so whatever the parameter, the number value we are passing, so if it is less than 1, so what they are doing here? So they are providing 1. So it is nothing but the size we are going to create only 1 here. So if it is, whenever we are trying to provide the less than 1 values, so which is going to create a 1 size here. So it's not, if it is not satisfy this condition, so they are going to use this particular block here. Right. Now we can observe what they are doing here. So basically, they are checking internally one more ternary operator. If you observe, so this is also one ternary operator they are using, and internally they are using one more ternary operator. If you observe, so what is the max value we are going to get? So you can see the max value we are going to get here. Right. So the max value we are assigning into this particular num. So num element here. Right. So whenever we are assigning this particular max value, what they are doing here? They are getting here. So whatever the max value they are assigning to, so they are checking here. They are checking the values here. If the whatever the number element we are passing here, right? So whatever the number element we are passing, if it equals to this particular integer dot max value, what happening here? So they are like they are using integer dot max value. So otherwise, they are checking with the num elements plus 1. Getting the point. So for simple example here, for this parameter I am giving as a 20. Getting the point. For this parameter I am giving as a 20. So if I am going to give 20, so this condition will not satisfy here. So this condition will not satisfy. Right. So what will happen here? So it's going to check here. The second one is going to check. But internally, we are having one more ternary condition here. So this condition they are checking internally. So num element equals to integer dot max element. So this also will not satisfy here. So if this not satisfy here, this after this particular ternary operator will not execute here, because whenever this condition will become true, so then only this particular statement is going to execute it here. Right. So this condition is not going to satisfy. Now this condition we are going to use. So what is the value we are going to get? So 20 plus 1, and with the 21 we are creating an object array. With the 21 size, getting the point. With the 21 size we are creating new object array. So this is very important here. So how exactly the internal file of this particular array DQ is working here. Now we identified, so whenever we are passing the element data, so how exactly the objects are creating internally. Right. So the above one default one we identified. So this is the collection. By calling this particular collection as a parameter, we are going to create one more array. Okay. So we'll see another method here, because we identified the three constructors here. So first one is the default constructor. The default constructor we are having, what is the capacity is 70. So 16 plus 1. Right. The default capacity here you can observe the initial capacity is sufficient to hold 16 element. 16 element here. Right. Up to 16 element we can add, but the size here they are making as a 17 here. The size they are making as a 17. Whenever we are making the 17, then only we can insert the values up to 16 here. Right. Now, so we'll go for the constructor we identified here. We need to check with those methods here. So first method we need to check with the collection method. So collection method having add method here. Okay. Now same thing I want to add string here. Same thing I want to add string here. So we try to check with how exactly this particular add method is working internally. Observe here. I'm trying to run in the debug mode here. Let me switch to the debug perspective. Okay. Now we are in the add method. I'm trying to move inside this particular add method. Observe here, what is the method they are calling internally? add loss method, right? So we need to check with what exactly this particular add loss method is working internally. So E is equals to null. So whatever the E value we provided, this is not a null here. We are having string here, right? So the null pointer exception we are not going to get. Observe here what are the elements we are going to get. You can see, so whenever we are calling this particular default constructor, so up to 0 to 16. So 0 to 16 is nothing but how many elements we can insert here? So around 17 elements we can insert here. Getting the point. Right. Now we identify the element, but the element does not have any data here. So we are passing into ES here. So they are checking with the tail here. What exactly is in the tail? The tail is 0. Now, so what you are understanding here, if you observe carefully, so in the 0 location, because the tail is 0, the 0 location, what we are doing here, we are trying to insert the whatever the E value we are having. Observe here. In fact, here in the 0 location, we are inserting the value called string here. Okay. Now, what we are doing here? So they are checking the condition here. If this condition is satisfied, internally it's going to grow the object size. Internally it's going to grow. So to increase the capacity of this particular object array. Right. Now we'll check here. So what exactly we are having? So they are passing here tail and a length here. So what is the length we are going to have here? 17. Getting the point. The length we are having 17. Right. So we need to check with this particular INC method what they are doing here. So if we observe I plus plus. So what is the I value we are getting internally? 0. Now it's become 1. This particular 1 Now observe the Adler's method, the purpose of this Adler's method, what exactly it is doing is internally checking the object is a null or not. So if it is null, it's going to throw an exception, and if it is not, so simply the loading elements. So it will be different variable, something called ES. Getting the point. So now so they are adding the specified element into the location. Here they are increasing the tail and the end of the tail. So this condition is not satisfying. Okay, back to here, the add method we identified. So same way, every time the tail is going to change here, and later the tail values are going to add here. Something called another one string here. So float, double, and character. Finally, we try to print to Q. We'll try to print the Q here. So simply, I want to run in the debug, in the normal mode here. You can observe whatever the data we are adding, so the same data we are getting here. Getting the point. The same data we are getting here. But observe. So we discussed some of the method because this particular RADQ. So this particular RADQ. Okay. So first we'll check with the collection related methods here. So first we identified add is a collection method, right? Same way we'll try to check with another method here. So what are the another method we are having here? So another one here, something called Q dot content here. The content here I want to check with the string here. So we don't want to check more information regarding this particular collection method here. So the contents method is returning true here. Getting the point. And we need to check with is empty. Is empty method. Getting the point. This particular is empty method is returning will false because we are having an object inside this particular queue. We are having an object inside this particular queue. Now, because of this particular object, the is empty method will return false here. Okay. Finally, we need to work on the remove method. We need to work on the remove method. So how exactly this particular remove method? And so let me check with this particular object method, something called, I want to check with string here. We'll observe how exactly this particular remove method will work here. Getting the point. I'm trying to run in the debug mode to find out the remove method, the internal work style here. Remove method, internal work style here. Okay, now we are in the remove method. So I'm trying to move inside this particular remove method. So you can observe remove first occurrence here. So what they are doing is they are trying to remove the value. So if they are having the multiple times also, the first occurrence value only is going to remove here. Okay, again we'll go inside this particular method. Object is not equals to null. So they are loading the elements here. So we can identify here the elements, how many we are having. So these are the values we inserted here. String, integer, float, double, character. Getting the point. So these are available inside which reference is something called element here. So the element we are copying into this particular ES. Okay. After copying here, so we can observe this is the loop here. This particular loop only is going to decide so which object we want to delete here. So it's going to decide which object we want to delete here. So you observe carefully what is the head we are having? 0. The I values become 0. And later, so we are having one more variable here. What is the tail we are getting here? 5. The tail we are getting as a 5, and that we are assigning into end variable. The end variable we are having 5 here. So now we need to check again. They are using the ternary operator here. Again, they are using the ternary operator here. We need to figure it out like what is I value? 0. So I less than or equals to n. So I less than or equals to n. This condition will satisfy. So once it is satisfied here, they are having the condition to end. Up to how many times this loop is going to repeat? 5 times. Because the tail value we are having the 5, we are assigning it to the same value to end, getting the point. And the I value we are copying from the end. So we are copying from the head here, getting the point. Now, whenever we are copying from the head here, the I value becomes 0. So because of this condition is satisfied here. I less than or equals to end. I value 0, end value 5. Getting the point. I value 0. So to understand more, so simply less than 5. I less than or equals to 5. Getting the point. This condition will become true. So whenever this condition will become true, what happens here? The end, whatever the end value we are having, we are assigning it to this particular true. Getting the point. So now the true also we are having how much? 5. The true also we are having 5 here. Okay. So we identified this. But finally, what we are doing here? So again, we are initializing I is equals to 0, 2 is equals to n here. Okay. So we identified this particular condition and expression here. Now, so we need to check with so whether this particular for loop is going internally or not. Now you can observe. So it's going internally. Whenever it's going internally, what happens here? So again we are checking the one more condition here. So what is the condition we are checking here? I less than 2. I value 0 less than equals to 5. So now this condition is become satisfying here. So once it is satisfying here, we are checking with the index location. So based on the index location, we are checking with comparing the objects here. Now observe here. This condition will satisfy here. You can observe this condition is going to satisfy because whatever the object we pass on there, that is also same. But inside this particular index location, we are getting one more object, so that is also same. So both the objects are matching here. Internally, they are calling delete here. So if you observe, they are passing the index number. So observe carefully, they are passing the index number. So what you are understanding is, based on the index number, the object will become null. Based on this particular index number, the object will become. Okay, now we'll go inside this particular delete method. So what is the I we are having? Something called 0. If we observe, again they are trying to load here. They are trying to load into the ES and the capacity. We can observe the capacity we are having 17 and we are having some elements here. Right. Now, you can see here, based on this particular subtraction, we are going to get some front value. So they are passing 3 variables here. They are passing 3 variables here. What is the front we are getting? 0. And so what is the back here? Something called 4. Now, so this condition will become true because front is 0, back 4 here. And we can check with the h less than or equals to I. So what is the h value we are having? Something called 0. What is the I value we are having? 0. So this condition will become true. Now, so what we are doing here? We are trying to copy the element here. So if you observe, this is the, so if you see, first one is the source directory, right? So this is the source index location, and this is the destination object here. So destination location and the length here. So based on this particular parameter, so carefully observe, this particular ES is going to change now after coming from the array copy. So we are going to have some changes in this particular ES object. Carrying the one. Now observe carefully. After 4 we are having all the string integer float double character variables. Okay, now I'm trying to click on the F6 here. So you can observe inside this particular GS here. So what you are understanding here? Any changes here? So you can observe we don't no changes happen for this particular iteration. So it's going to check because some conditions are not satisfied by here. So observe what is the H here? H is 0. So they did not do any changes here because the conditions are not satisfied here. But you can observe here what we are doing here. So H is equal to 0. Now what we are doing here? If you observe this particular 623, if you observe this particular 623, what happening here? So whatever the object we are having, the string object is become null. The string object has become null. Getting the point. Because of this, what happened here? The remove method is going to call. So whatever the object we are passing here, the object is removed from this particular collection. So which collection we are working here? Something called array here. Right. Now we are checking with the case, they are returning false here. And here from this particular method we are returning true. So now what you are understanding here, whenever this particular remove method is returning true, so we can decide the object is removed from the collection. So once this particular object is removed from the particular collection, what we can do, again we'll try to print the same objects here. We'll try to print the same objects here. Observe carefully. You can see initially we are having the string, so now we can check the string is not available. Right, because we are calling the remove method. We are calling the remove method to remove the particular string object here. Remove the particular string object here. Okay, now so we don't want to check with the remaining method because we are already familiar with the collection class or methods here. So we need to check with the array_dequeue is extending from the collection abstract collection. Right. This particular array_dequeue is extending from the abstract collection. So we identified so what exactly the methods are available inside this particular array_dequeue. So we need to check with this particular dequeue interface here. Right. So dequeue we observe is extending from the queue interface. So the same method we can observe whatever the method we are having inside this particular queue interface. Okay, first we check with the add first method. So what exactly is this particular add first method will perform here? Basically you can see, so it's trying to insert the element into the specified queue, and if it is possible to immediately without violating the capacity restrictions here. Getting the point. So basically whenever we are calling add method, so which method is calling internally? Add last method is calling. Right. But only the difference is when we are calling this particular add first here. So what happens is now I want to, after removing, so we don't want to remove element here, but here I want to add here. Q dot add first. So Q dot add first. Now, so what I can do simply, so boolean I want to add. Okay, now we'll try to check with the same method in a debug mode so that we'll have some more clearance here. Now we are the add first method. I'm trying to go inside this particular add first, so you can observe the E is not in null. So we are loading the elements here. So we are checking the condition here. You can observe. So internally, so this is the entire expression is going to return the index value. Getting the point. So entire this particular expression is going to return the index value. So first we will check with this particular DEC. So what we are doing here? So we need to understand here what exactly is returning here. Okay. Now, so to understand, first we need to check here. So it's having two parameters. What is the head here? 0. And what is the length we are having here? 17. observe here what we are doing here. So 1 second, I'm having internet issue. So it is very slow. Okay. So is it fine? Okay. So is it fine? So can you please respond? Because I'm having like low internet, I'm getting you. Okay. Okay. Observe now what we are doing here. So this is the method we are trying to check here, something called DEC. So what exactly it's doing here? And this is taking as a two parameter. One is a int I, second one is module C. We need to identify what is the I value and what is the module value. So I something called head we are getting here. Head we are getting as a 0 and the key is dot length. So we already identified which we are getting as a 17 here. Okay. Now we go inside this particular DEC method. What is the I we are getting here? Something called 0. This module we are getting as a 17. Now we need to check here. So basically this particular I is already 0. Cutting the point. This particular I already again doing pre-increment operator here. So it's become okay. Now observe the I value we are getting as a 0. So now what we're doing here, we're trying to decrease to -1. So it has become -1. So the condition we're checking here, this condition will satisfy. So once this particular condition satisfied, what we're doing here, they're doing module -1, module -1, 17 -1, 16. So again, the 16 are assigned into this particular thing. The same I assigned to the condition. Let's begin the point. So now what you're understanding is 16 will be here. So this particular method is returning, this particular method will return 16. So once the whatever the value is returned, what we do, we're going to pass into this particular section. So head is going to get a 16 here. Right. In the 16 location, we are trying to insert the value, so which is we are trying to get as a boolean. Right. Now we will observe here. Okay, we go for the ESC test, here, the which location the value is inserted. You can observe, so as written here, the 16 location, the boolean value is added here. Right. In the 16 location, the boolean value is added here. Now, so what they are taking here? So head is 5, head is 16. It's not become equal. It's not become equal here. Whenever we are calling here, so what you are understanding is, by calling this particular add first method, what we are doing here, so if you observe, this is the last index here. Basically, 16 is the last index here. 16 is the last index here. Right. When we are calling this particular add first method, where we are inserting the value into the location called last index here. So this is working oppositely when we are calling the add first, then the value is going to insert it into the add last. The value is going to insert it into the last index of the particular given array. And whenever we are calling the particular add last method, so we see where it's going to insert it here. Okay. Now we understand the add first method. Now we understand the add first method. But we are adding, even though we are adding the last index, but by loading here, we are getting as a first value. Even though we are adding the particular last index here, still we are getting a first value. So we'll observe one more time here how exactly we are getting this particular values here. Okay, let me run one more time in a debug mode here. Okay, I'm trying to run one more time here because so I'm trying to check with any other operations we are having. So no, there is no other operation here, but okay. So simply we are calling head is equals to tail. But let me check with the toosting method. We don't have a toosting also. I'm not. So we'll check the queue here. So how it is changed here. Okay. Okay. So now, even though we are adding the last index here, but we are getting as a first value. So that we need to figure it out, like where exactly this particular operation is performing here to get it the first index here. Getting the point. So that we need to check here. But now I'm trying to find out the what I can say like toString method. The toString is method is not available in the ArrayDQ class. So maybe so which is available inside this particular class called abstract collection. Let me go to this particular abstract collection. So we are having toString method here. Internally, we are taking this particular. Okay. Now we need to check it. Basically, whenever we are calling this particular toString method, so we are, like the indexes are changing here. Okay, let me run one more time the same example here, so that we'll have a understanding. So how exactly the values are loading here. Now we can observe. Now we are in the toString method. So if you observe, the toString method is calling from the way you can see. Oh, sorry. So now this method here. We need to check here. Okay. The final one we need to understand here. Now we are in the same call toString method. We are going to get iterator. So we need to check with the iterator here. Okay. Now this condition is not satisfied. So it's going back to the flow. So string builder one object is created. That time to appending here. Now we can observe. So we are having infinity loop here. So we are having infinity loop. So there is no condition here. But now internally they are taking this some condition block here. Okay. So IT. So what is IT? IT is nothing but iterator here. So what object we are getting here? So we need to take here the object here. Okay. So here only we are getting the boolean here. Okay. So concept simply inside this particular collection is written here the other is right. So this is the way. So it's converting. Now I will take here where this particular values are changing here. So I need to debug a little bit more. So then I will be able to understand here. Okay, but now we go for the another method. We'll go for the another method here. So substitute.